all, and
Yes.
we won't go to any particular order, but could you tell us about where you went to basic training?
When I volunteered, I was sent to Fort McClellan, Alabama, and luckily I was chosen to be in an anti-tank company rather than a rifle company. And after the 16 weeks training, I ended up being aware of how to use the 37 and the 57 millimeter and bazookas. And it turned out when I got on Omaha Beach on D+5, I joined the 5th Rangers and I became assistant bazooka man on the F Company. Luckily, I never got to use it in a sense. I was transferred out because I had glasses. Glasses had played a part in my life because my brother had been on the Oklahoma when it was sunk at Pearl Harbor, and I always, the next year and a half, hated the Japanese, and I volunteered for the Navy. And in June of 43, I went to Marquette, Michigan, took the test, and stood in front of the naval guy, and he said, "You're not on my list." I said, "But sir," he said, "we're not taking men with glasses." So it turned out my glasses had played a part. When I was in the Rangers, the CO called me up and said, "Bob, you're the only man in the company with glasses. We're going to try and take Brest, that big submarine pen city on the coast of France." He said, "We might have hand-to-hand, house-to-house. I wish you'd go to headquarters." I chose not to, and 16 of the 45 of us who had joined the Rangers after D-Day were put onto a truck, and we rode about 3 miles down to the 79th, and there we were.
I did not know that.
My, that's going to be a tough one. I didn't feel comfortable sitting there and sort of looking at all these. You guys were all dressed for the same way today for some reason. I don't know. A variety over there. No two alike over there, though. Well, Fort McClellan, Alabama, huh? Oh, then you know that song, "We're the boys from et cetera, white out, et cetera." Never mind on that one either. That was made up with lyrics that only guys in the Army could come up with. Well, good morning anyway.
Morning.
I noticed that most of you are sitting here sort of lethargic a bit. Some of you are having a happy time because you're not on duty anywhere else, so you're smiling about it. But nevertheless, at 18 years, I was at Fort McClellan, Alabama. I was just ending my 18th year birthday. So I was, at that point, one of the youngest to be in the service. I never regretted that. When I realized that there were other individuals at Fort McClellan when I was there who were in their 30s or more, and they were recruits also at that point. So all through World War II, and I've been through a lot of the battles, 4 major campaigns, and almost into the Bulge, just waiting to be called there. And I watched these older guys really struggling, and I still, get the opinion that the armed forces ought to be made up of very young people all the way for that reason. But Fort McClellan, Alabama was, of course, the training grounds for me and for everyone else. And I'm sure if I mentioned to you, you scaled Baines Gap. You remember that place? That was only a 20-mile hike uphill.
Talladega. I went to Talladega.
Oh well, it was an experience down there anyway. I've never, contrary to what a lot of people like to want to hear, I never remember regretting being in the service. I left high school. I was in my senior year when I turned 18. And almost immediately the draft board said, I want you. I don't know why they wanted me. There were much better guys all around me. They said, I want you. So without question, without any hurts or no ego trips or anything, I went along with it because I made up my mind I'm being called to do something. I've always in my life had the philosophy, at least, that if I'm asked to do something, I'm going to do it, and by gosh, if I'm going to do something, I want to do it well, or I don't want to do the darn thing. And I want that known right from the beginning. So I entered the U.S. Army with the feeling that I've been asked to do, at this point, to do something for something that I am extremely, even at that age, extremely thankful for, and that is for the country in which I live. Every one of us should stand up and very proudly say, without any equivocation whatsoever, I am an American. I live in this country, and there's not a better place in the world, and if need be, I will do what all of you guys are getting trained to do, stand up in defense, put down the enemies, and make this place a kind of a home that we really want. And out of that, and a lot of what I have in mind was inculcated in me at Fort McClellan, Alabama, and then for the next almost 2 years, and almost constantly being in the combat zones. After completion at Fort McClellan, of course, I went to Camp Kilmer in New Jersey here and waited for the boat across. And as best as I could figure it out, when I was at the point I would be graduating from high school, I earned my combat infantry badge. So it was one of the coincidences. So from that point on, I forgot all about those things that maybe rubbed me a little wrong at times during basic training, like having to take a 20-mile hike when there was a nail sticking up in the heel of my shoe. But of course, you never stop for that. That's just a little inconvenience, that's all. But the experience started, and it was something different almost every day. If you can find any difference in hedgerow country that happened to be in France at that point. But it was an experience, and I think I've overdid my 1 minute talk. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies. It is indeed a pleasure for me to be here and to share anything, if I have anything that's worthwhile to share. And the gentleman on the
Well, my story is pretty short. I don't have too much to say, but it took me 2 years to do it. But I started on the 314, and I joined right after, well, during the Battle of the Bulge. That's when I hit the whole unit, and we were in a town, and I got to meet my buddies that were to be with me, the whole time we were there. And it took me, as I say, 2 years in the outfit to accomplish whatever we did. But it was, the story is short, but we were all over Europe. I was with the 3rd Army, and of course that was pretty famous in that time, and we had quite a famous general leader, and I did see him quite a few times because he was a leader from the front, not from the rear like most of them were. He would come up with his Jeep, and he had 3 or 4 men in the Jeep, and then he had a second Jeep with riflemen, and they were supposed, they were there to protect him from snipers and so forth. But he had quite a reputation, and he didn't have to have anybody help him tell his story because he did a good job on himself. So he's pretty, he kind of thought quite a bit of himself. But he was a good leader and a good person that he could pick the right people to be with in his staff. So things usually did go along pretty well. But we were all over Europe. He couldn't stay still any. If we stayed in one spot for a day or two, that was really something, because we were going all the time. And we used to be able to tell what was going to be by what the rations they sent us. We get, of course, in those days, you guys have got a feast. What you get. Because we had nothing but, K's and C's, and they had all the necessary vitamins to keep us going. But they forgot to put anything in a taste. They just didn't have any. But we, it kept us going when we needed it. But we would watch, and if we got K's and C's, well, we knew we were going again. But if they sent us like 10 and 1, which was like a feast for us, then we knew we were going to stay for a day or two, and we knew what was coming. But that's the only way we knew what was going ahead. What we were going to be. We were going to be walking and running, or we're going to have a place to sit and take it easy for a day. But other than that, we had some pretty rough times, and we were shelled quite a bit. And I had a buddy that actually lived within 10 miles of my home, and we were together all the time that I was in the unit. And luckily, we both came home, and we had quite a long time home, as civilians. But he and I seemed to buddy up And, you know, we dug holes, foxholes together, and, you know, we just kept our unit, and we kept with it. And I was so glad that we did, both of us, make it home. And, yeah, but I mean, that seems to be the biggest part of it. We did have quite a few fights, and but luckily we made it through it. But yeah, it's so long ago, you know, it's hard to remember because the old brain isn't working like it used to. And so I do have a problem trying to remember, but yeah, it was quite an experience, and I know you guys have had more or less the same problems and so forth, so I guess I'm talking to people that know what I am talking about. But that's about as I say. It took me 2 years to do it, but it don't take long to talk about it.